Talk about artificial intelligence, it learns from the experiences. Why? Because you have all this previous data that collected in the last 10 20 years. For example, I just talked with a construction company. They have their accident reports for the last 20 years. In the beginning, they were keeping them in the papers. Then they convert them into Excel, so they keep them in the spreadsheet. And later on, they start to adapt certain project management systems, web-based portals and applications. So they collect data constantly. So once you collect this data, the system, the AI, can learn from the experiences and can learn from the previous data, and then starts making predictive studies. It just basically tells you what is really happening. And the most beautiful thing about this thing, it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, constantly in the background working with the data. So what it does is basically it just extracts data, patterns of the data, and then it uses this for prediction purposes, classification purposes, optimization purposes, and decision making purposes. As the data is coming with, and the data is incredibly important for us. So from this data, sky is the limit with the things we can do, and so which also tells many of the organizations that they have to keep data. And many organizations doesn't understand that, because these days, especially with all these changes, many organizations comes and asks us how we are going to have the AI revolution, how we can catch up with the AI revolution. One of the first things we tell them, listen, you have to have first systems in place to collect data, and these systems has to be straightforward and working. So once you have this, once you have that maturity, then yes, you can move into the rest of the stuff. So when as I said, when we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning is there, and machine learning could work with supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Supervised learning is the most, this is the one that we utilize most of the time, because it is basically labeling the data and teaching the computer, which is straightforward. So, and there is always an example we give in classes that, let's say you have many pictures, and each picture you have a cat, so you label the cat. So machine eventually understands how the cat looks because of the the shapes and the colors, etc., that are coming in together, and eventually it understands it. In the other one, in unsupervised learning, you drop the massive amount of data. So what the machine does is it clusters them and tries to look for the patterns to make the decisions. So one of the things that in the machine learning methods that we use recently and a lot is the deep learning, which is basically advanced artificial neural network. And one of the things about artificial neural network that you have to understand, it's a black box. So you have an input, you have an output, there's a black box in between. For you, it's a black box. For the scientists, it's actually lots of equations and mathematical models. But it is very difficult for, like, let's assume that I'm that person. It's very important. It is not that easy for me to understand all these mathematical equations. So that's the reason we call it black boxes. So input and output. And the beautiful thing is, once you establish that black box or advanced mathematical equations, it works. So then you can just basically fine tune it, and it works very nicely. And we use a lot the deep learning methodologies in computer vision, because it works very efficiently and very fast. Of course, as I said in the beginning, expert systems are there since 1970s, 80s we are utilizing, which is nothing more than if-then structure. If something happens, then condition, just you have to act on it. So basically that was the first initial artificial intelligence methods that started with. Later on, from these mathematical models, we start to apply natural language processing to understand the text, which basically later on incredibly opened the pathway for the generative AI and large language models, because that is the best way to, machine has to understand the text. Once it understands the text, then it can learn and utilize its algorithms to make decisions. So NLP was one of the biggest improvements, and each country, each computer science and engineering departments all over the world, they work on their own languages, and they come up with these methodologies for the text to understand, because sometimes this sounds easy, but it's not easy. Once you read the words in a sentence, understand the culture and double, triple, meaning of each word, and they're coming together. And it is important that you resolve that issue first, which they did in many different languages. So and computer vision, as I said, and I want you to understand this part. This part is very interesting, and this is interesting when we talk about the car. Let's say your electrical car with autonomous driving. As it is driving, it captures all these images. As these images comes to the brain of the computer looks for their algorithms, capture the objects, and utilizes if-then structure. If there's a person in front of them, go to left, go to right, go to act on it. So basically, a computer makes the decisions instantly. Now take this example, apply to a city level, and imagine that you have all these different cameras all over the city. Each intersection you have cameras for different purposes, for security purposes, and also many times we put these cameras to understand the congestion, understand how the cars are moving, etc. So all that information coming into the city center with keeping them in the large servers and all this massive amount of data, and you constantly processing this data to make decisions. So I want you to just understand massive amount of data. That's the reason we call it big data. And it's a heterogeneous data. What does that mean? That means that data is in the form of video, form of images, form of text, form of different signals coming from different places of the city. Let's say there is a city center where you have all the people are coming to apply for certain permits, etc. So you have to heat that place, cool that place. All that information also is coming. So I want you to understand the massiveness of this data. So and I want you to also understand that this also basic introduces different type of issues and problems altogether. But there is no way you cannot say, oh, I'm not going to deal with this. This is the reality. This is what we are living, and we have to plan everything accordingly. And when we talk about AI starts with the weak AI, which is basic nothing more than having a specific algorithms for example for your email. So you are managing your email, but then you go into strong AI, which is basically a machine performing intellectual task like a human, which is very difficult, by the way, but it is happening right this moment. That is the beautiful part of it. Generative AI just has basically accomplished that, which is, if you ask me, mind-boggling. Because when we were working on these things 30 years ago, we never thought that we are gonna come to this point. But right now we are in that point. And I want you to also emphasize, when we talk about strong AI or general intelligence, it was we were thinking that okay, we can create a machine, but we never thought that we are going to apply them to the robots. And now the robotic technology also revolution was there too. So these computers with the improvement of the chip sector, thanks to NVIDIA, all these like the small box with amazing amount of processing speed, you can just put to a robot, and that robot can just of course with the generative AI it can think now, it can understand and it can think. Now we can apply that to any type of robot, which basically opened an incredible amount of opportunities for all of us. Now we are talking about super intelligence. And as you watch sci-fi movies, in every sci-fi movie there is this machine. I mean, if you're a Star Trek, fan, you see that they're talking with the computers to to make decisions. And now this is also happening. Now we are going into the age of super intelligence, which is amazing. But I would like to also emphasize on something, because whenever we talk about AI, we always tell our students that you have to understand the ethical portions of it too. So because machine only makes decisions according to the data you provide to them. So if you teach them unethical things, then they will do unethical things. So this is always one thing. Like any curriculum that we have, we always teach our students ethics. So we have to teach our machines the ethics too, because it could open different dangerous processes too. And also when I talk about these threats, I will also talk about the cybersecurity very briefly. As we have all this data coming in, I want you to understand that data is coming in, large amount of data, and there are so many people that will use this data against you. So then another subject area that is became very popular these days is that cybersecurity. And AI and cybersecurity works together. How they work together? So cybersecurity, you may just assume that as a bunch of algorithms working to protect your data, but also with AI, we can have self-learning, self-healing cybersecurity applications. What does that mean? So you put your algorithms to protect the data. As you are protecting the data, basically I want you to understand that AI also works in the background, learns about the new threats, and if there's damage into their system, it heals itself to basically defend your data much better. So that is another area moving. And when we talk about digital twins in this perspective, believe me, this is a very important area that everybody needs to understand, because I cannot emphasize on it enough, because you have to think about cybersecurity anytime you have any digital twin application, okay? Because this is a must to consider, because imagine that your electrical grid, somebody attacked to it and you couldn't protect it, disaster. This is very dangerous.